Rockingham Speedway is for sale just like that. NASCAR may increase the horsepower this year, and the France family is this close to entering a Cup Series race themselves. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Quick episode. In a couple hours, I got to catch a plane to Nashville. I'll be at Nashville Super Speedway this weekend. Tonight, on this channel, I will be streaming live with Danny B, The Iceberg, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Should be a unique show. Hopefully, you'll stop by. In the meantime, let's talk about some major news stories, beginning with Rockingham Speedway. The Charlotte Observer reports that just weeks after Rockingham's triumphant return to the NASCAR schedule, track owner Dan Levenheim is looking for a buyer. He said, quote, "We've basically taken it in first gear as far as we can go, building it out, getting it ready for bigger and better hands, and the time is right to pass the baton to someone who can take it further than we can." And just looking at social media, at least one person is interested. The Biff has his eyes on the prize. Freedom Factory Super Speedway coming soon? I'm just here to ignite the rumors. But yes, the current Rockingham owners are already looking to sell. I get it from a business perspective. Buy low, sell high. I've talked about this before, but when I visited Rockingham 2 years ago, before any of this was really on the horizon, I met the owner, and my takeaway is that he was a business guy first and a racing guy like fifth. So I'm not shocked that now that racing is back, that NASCAR is back, that he would be looking to cash out, essentially. I hope that, one, somebody buys the racetrack and plans to use it for racing. And two, I hope whoever that is, I hope they are racing people, whether that's NASCAR or ISC, SMI, or even an independent buyer out there. SMI, to me, makes the most sense. They've been wheeling and dealing in recent years. They purchased Dover, now Dover Motor Speedway. They purchased Nashville Super Speedway recently. They obviously revitalized North Wilkesboro. I could see SMI, Marcus Smith's team, buying up Rockingham Speedway and potentially slotting Rockingham into that Cup Series All-Star date that SMI currently operates. And maybe North Wilkesboro gets a points date. Does it replace Spring Bristol? Does it replace some other spot on the calendar? Just speculation, but to me, SMI makes the most sense if one of the major track conglomerates is going to swoop in and make this purchase. Again, whoever buys Rockingham, I hope they are racing people. I think that's what it's going to take if Rockingham Speedway hopes to stay on the NASCAR schedule going forward. Interesting, though frankly unsurprising news coming out of Rockingham Speedway. What is surprising, however, is the fact that NASCAR suddenly is spearheading the more horsepower conversation. Elton Sawyer, vice president of competition, brought it up on SiriusXM earlier this week. Hey, we're talking about increasing the horsepower almost daily. And then yesterday on the Hauler Talk podcast, NASCAR communication director Mike Ford said that the horsepower could be increased later this season. This is also sudden. For years, NASCAR has tried to ignore the horsepower discussion, instead choosing to tinker with the short track aero package, or instead begging Goodyear to soften the tires. For NASCAR to suddenly be leading the horsepower discussion is not something I had on my bingo card. Maybe NASCAR just wanted everyone to think this was their idea. Hey NASCAR, what if we increase the horsepower? No, that's a terrible idea. What if we increase the horsepower? That's where we are. I'm giving him some grief, but hey, better late than never, frankly. I mean, this conversation should have been had at least 2, maybe 3 years ago, but I'm glad folks are finally coming around. Now, we're not talking about 900 or even 1,000 horsepower. Mike Ford said that is likely not on the table, but something around 750, which would be nearly a 100 horsepower bump from where they are now, that, he said, is very realistic. Again, by the end of this season. So by the time the Cup Series heads back to Martinsville or Phoenix at the end of the year, we could have increased horsepower. That would be a huge change, frankly, from a setup and adjustments perspective. Now, I'm not going to pretend that bumping the horsepower a bit is going to fix all of the next gen's short track problems. I'm not a race car driver, obviously, but I can repeat what I've heard many other race car drivers say in recent months. The thing we hear about the next gen car is that because the parts and pieces are so equal, it's difficult to pass. You need variables. The driver is one variable, but with SMT data being shared across the garage, even the drivers all kind of race the same. So you need additional variables. The problem is at short tracks, the tires are so big, they create so much mechanical grip that it's harder to get loose, to slip, to make a mistake. And even if you do slip and make a mistake, at many short tracks, you shift. So you can just drop a gear, keep your RPMs up, and you can recover without losing much momentum. Fewer mistakes lead to fewer passing opportunities. When Goodyear has softened the tires wear out quicker. Drivers manage them differently depending on where they are in the pack, where they are in the run, and that's why at certain points you see more passing because some drivers have more tires left than others. That is an important variable that has helped short track racing the past year or two. Increasing the horsepower, even by just 100 or so, would be another important variable that I think would lead to drivers managing their tires differently, managing their runs differently. Increased horsepower might also cause them to slip a little more often, a few more mistakes, a few more passing opportunities. I believe increasing the horsepower can only improve the short track racing product, so I'm excited to hear that NASCAR is taking this conversation very seriously. I hope the OEMs also take it seriously, and I would love to see 750 horsepower at short tracks and maybe even road courses by the end of this year. I love that NASCAR seems to believe that is doable. I hope this becomes reality sooner rather than later. That is awesome. I would love to go back to some of these short tracks in the playoffs, especially with more horsepower, more variables, could create some very interesting racing, some interesting moments late in the season. So just wanted to share the latest horsepower update, the latest news with y'all. One final topic we need to discuss today. This morning, Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic are reporting that NASCAR CEO Jim France had a deal with Spire Motorsports to enter a car in the upcoming Sonoma Cup Series race. Jim France owns an IMSA team and was looking to put one of his IMSA drivers behind the wheel. But The Athletic reports that this deal fell apart in the last couple weeks after facing pushback from others in the garage. I will link the full article down below. Ton of interesting quotes and details in there. I just want to focus on the big picture. Jim France, again, is the CEO of NASCAR, and the France family have owned NASCAR outright since the beginning, 77 years ago. In my opinion, it's a really bad look to compete in a series that you also own, especially in motorsports, where a huge part of the competition happens away from the public eye. As race fans, we have no idea when we tune in on Sunday if the cars racing for the win are legal or not. We are putting all of our trust in the inspection process, the officiating, both of which fall under the France family's purview. So I agree with most of the Cup Series garage, it sounds like. The France family entering a race or owning charters is a huge conflict of interest. I think we all know why this deal fell apart so suddenly, right? I mean, look at what happened at Indianapolis a week ago. Roger Penske owns the track, he owns the IndyCar series, and he owns one of the most successful IndyCar teams. And in the past year or so, his team has been caught skirting the rules a handful of times. We all know that after the push-to-pass scandal a year ago, there was real contention in the IndyCar paddock that Penske, also owning the series, presented a major conflict of interest. Last week, there was so much bad press heading into the Indianapolis 500, press that was threatening the legitimacy and integrity of this entire sport that Roger Penske had given so much of his life to. He responded by firing key team executives and by pledging to hand sanctioning duties over to a third party. Roger Penske recognized, perhaps a little bit too late, that no matter what safeguards you put into place, both owning a team and the series you compete in will always be perceived as a major conflict of interest. So I am very glad as a NASCAR fan that the France family was pressured out of making this deal. This wasn't them buying a charter, it was just them partnering with an existing Cup Series team to put one of their other race car drivers in a Cup Series seat. But we know, based on reports last year, that the France family is interested in buying and owning charters themselves. They've tried to work that into the newest charter agreement, and I think they were successful. successful. I don't know that for a fact, but I believe under the new agreement, the France family is allowed to own charters. I could be wrong. We know for a fact they tried to work that into the deal. I'm not sure if the teams caved or not. I think they did. Anyway, we know the France family wants to enter the Cup Series as competitors. I hate that. I hate that so much. I hope it never happens. So I am glad that the France family heard the criticism, felt the pressure, and backed out of this experimental deal with Spire Motorsports. I think that's the right decision, big picture. I do not want the France family competing in NASCAR as long as they continue to own the sanctioning body itself. Again, be sure to check out the full athletic article. Goes into some other details, mentions the lawsuit. Maybe that played a role in the France family's initial push and then ultimate decision. Interesting stuff. Go check that out. That's going to do it for this episode, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, that big old button down there next to my yellow face. If you're new to the channel or you love all things NASCAR, we talk racing every single day, every week, all year long. I will see you all at Nashville. I'll see you tonight, hopefully, 8 p.m. Eastern time, streaming live. Hope you'll stop by. We'll be talking Charlotte, 600. We'll talk the latest news, rumors, and we'll preview the upcoming Nashville weekend. Should be a good time. I will see you then. Have a great rest of your afternoon, folks.